Hey everyone, welcome to Going Live with Good Soil. Emmett is out this week. He's on vacation with his family, but I am pleased to be joined with Florian Minderop. Florian is the co-founder of MisterGreen EV. Sorry, I got a bad echo going on here. How do I mute this? Sorry. I don't know where that's coming from. Sorry. No, I think I had two screens pulled up. Very sorry about that. I was hearing myself talk in the background with like a 5-second delay, and it was incredibly distracting. So sorry about that. Anyway, Florian joins us from MisterGreen EV, a Dutch Tesla fleet operator. Has a really interesting business model. I interviewed Florian back, I think it was in December when I was doing the Spark stuff. And I think you've got a particularly interesting data set that and just viewpoint from the things that you're doing that I think are beneficial for more people in the Tesla community to just kind of be aware of. So Florian, welcome, and I can't wait to kind of dive in and see what you've been up to for the last 7-8 months now.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me, and I'm very happy to discuss our last 7 to 8 months. It's not really different from what we did 6-7 months ago, but it's definitely positive.
Yeah. So maybe for those who are not familiar with you or with MisterGreen, I think maybe it would be helpful to kind of give an overview of what your business model is, kind of why you started it, and then where you see. I know you have a very firm vision on where you think the future is, and you're working now to kind of achieve that vision. So I think if you could just lay the groundwork from where you're coming from a little bit, it'd be helpful in kind of grounding this conversation.
Yeah, well, let's start off with our mission. Our mission is to end fossil fuels and accelerate the transition to electric vehicles, and even further than electric vehicles, to an electric ecosystem, as you can say. We started 10 years ago, and 10 years ago there was like a desert of electric vehicles. So we started with two-wheeled vehicles, and now we are actually we pivoted 10 years ago every year in order to get a good business model. And around 2013 we started with leasing out cars, and especially Teslas. And since the end of 2013 we are building a fleet of electric autonomous vehicles, and right now we have 3,500 Teslas in our fleet, and the Teslas are about 95% of our fleet. So we have like 5% other EVs, but they are all 100% battery electric vehicles, so no plugins. And as of about 1.5 years ago, when I first met you, Matt, we started to say, we are focusing more and more on the autonomous side than on the electric side, because we think the electrical part is obvious, and the autonomous part is, after AI, it's obvious as well, but it's not as obvious in the street yet. So we still have a lot to educate people on that part. So our business model is that we buy Teslas from Tesla for the same price as the consumer does, so we don't have any advantage, but we buy them and then we lease them out. So and that's called an operational lease, which is actually a lease plus. So it's not only financial, but it's also all the operations surrounding a car. So also the maintenance, the insurance, casualties, etc.
So I think maybe our US audience is probably less familiar with that model, because I don't think there's necessarily the same sort of service here in the US. So just to be clear, I mean, it is not only a vehicle lease that has a set period of time that instead of paying for the vehicle and owning the vehicle, you guys own the vehicle, and the lessee makes these payments, but also receives. I think you have some charging infrastructure, right? You have maintenance, like you said, and you're providing services kind of above and beyond what the normal kind of U.S. lease would entail.
Exactly. Yeah, all the cars are on our balance sheet, so we also take the risk of residual value. So that's
which you must be feeling pretty good about right now, I would imagine. So that's one of the things I wanted to talk about.
Better. Yeah.
I mean, I think when we spoke last, you were talking about getting 2 or 3 different leases out of a vehicle during its useful life, as opposed to just one from like an internal combustion engine vehicle. Typically, you would only lease that for the first 2-3 years of its life, and then the residual value would be some small fraction of what the original purchase price would be. So then you would typically sell that. Lessors would sell that. But I think your business model has a lot more upside potential in the out years after the lease is up. How is that panning out right now with used car prices in general, and for Teslas in particular? I'd imagine you're really kind of seeing some good news on that front.
Yeah, well, as we told about 6 months ago, that a normal leasing company wants to get rid of their car after the first period. It's about 4 years or 5 years. And actually, we want to keep the car because an electric car has this certain benefits. There's a low maintenance cost, low fuel cost, but also a high residual value, because the supply is lower than demand. And that was a crazy idea maybe a few years ago. But at this point in the market, the supply is not getting up to the demand. So on various reasons. So that's where we are right now.
So do you have some vehicles that have already come off the first lease that you've put on a second lease already?
Yep. We have, as I said before, we have 2 cars from 2013. So they came out of the lease in 2018. So they are in their second term right now. And cars that are coming out of the first lease period that are FSD capable, we keep them. But cars that they're not FSD capable, we sell them. So
and when you say FSD capable, you mean like hardware 3 equipped? Okay.
Yeah.
And so that's another really interesting part of your business model, I think. So could you talk a little bit about kind of your vision for being a Robotaxi fleet operator? I mean, I think a couple of years ago, people thought that was a crazy idea. I think even today, a lot of people still do find it hard to believe that autonomy will be coming anytime soon. So how do you think about that as somebody who's actually, I think you're one of the few people I can think of other than Tesla itself, which is actually investing dollars today in the hopes of becoming a Robotaxi fleet operator down the road. So I think you've got a really unique position there, and I'd love to kind of hear your thoughts on how long you think it's going to take to get there, and what you're trying to do now to better position your company in the future.
Yeah, we are a leasing company, so we from our numbers we see that the most important metric is actually utility rate, especially with electric vehicles. Because
for electricity,
yeah, because now the utilization rate. So
utilization rate. Okay. Yeah.
So a normal lease car, ICE car, also EV as of this moment, has a medium of about 25,000 kilometers a year. So that's about 15,000 miles a year. But because of the battery is actually made to outstand about 400,000 kilometers and maybe even 1 million kilometers. And because it's so cheap in the depreciation part of it, it's actually very interesting to have a high utilization rate. So even for ICE cars, it's very interesting to have multiple owners for one car in order to get the mileage higher. So we were already thinking of how are we able to do this? Are we able to go and do some more car sharing or ride sharing or that kind of services? And then Tesla came along with the FSD software. So and the vision of a Robotaxi fleet. So that was, for us, it was a very easy add-on to our business model, because we already had the cars. We want to keep them longer than 4 years, but maybe 2 terms or 3 terms. And we are able to finance the upfront cost of FSD. So and especially with the idea of FSD appreciating in value, it's an interesting business model for us. And eventually, hopefully we will get there. If FSD is completed and it's running, it will eventually evolve and wake up. The car will wake up into a robot, and it will not be a car anymore, but it will be a robot on wheels. So it's already a car connected to the internet, and then it will be a car connected to the internet, but also able to drive on itself. So and if you look at the business model, we could eventually be a Robotaxi as a service company. So we are the company who are behind the entrepreneurs who would like to set up a Robotaxi business.
Yeah, I think that's going to be an emerging business model that I think a lot of people will be trying to emulate in a couple of years. I think that the interesting thing you guys are doing is investing in that right now, which I think is a really cool business model. I haven't seen other companies trying to do. So what can you tell us about kind of the take rates that you're seeing on full self-driving right now, and what's your pricing, and how many people are opting for that? Which I think we can kind of use to get an idea of where Tesla's subscription pricing could go. But there probably are a couple important caveats we should point out as well.
So we started as selling the FSD as a part of the leasing price. So you could see it as a subscription, and we just used the normal pricing. So it was like 100, 120 euros a month for a 60-month lease, and then our take rate was about 10% or something. It was like the few people who took it. And then we decided, in order to lower the bar for people to learn about FSD and see how we can help with the business model as well, we started offering lease prices which were lower, and we also started to offer prices which were variable. So we said, why don't you just step in for 30 euros, and then we will see if FSD gets better, and then we will charge you more. So that was very interesting, and people were very enthusiastic about that. And then we saw our FSD take rates jump to 35%. And wow. Now we have a fleet of 3,500 Teslas, which are about 90% is FSD capable. So, and from that 90%, about 30% is already being upgraded to an FSD subscription model.
Okay, so you have about a 30% overall FSD take rate, which I think is pretty impressive, considering the functionality is so much more limited in Europe than it is in the United States. But probably part of the reason for that is that you're essentially subsidizing that price relative to what Tesla would charge. The reason being, you get the residual value kind of optionality upside in the out years, which is really interesting. So what is, how is the performance of full self-driving right now? I mean, in Europe, where you guys are, what are the capabilities, and what can it do kind of beyond the normal autopilot function right now?
Well, it's still very limited. It's actually it's the same as we had our discussion 7 months ago. So
things are moving slowly, aren't they?
Yeah. Unfortunately,
it seems like it's a combination of both Tesla focusing more on the United States and fully solving the United States, but also slow regulations. Do you have a sense of one or the other being more important to you guys right now?
Well, we obviously follow everything that Tesla is publishing on FSD beta, and if I'm correct, there hasn't been any change in normal FSD as well in the United States. There hasn't been any updates.
Yeah, right. I think the normal FSD in the United States, like we can do city street driving, and it stops for stop lights, stop signs, that sort of thing. Do you guys have that right now in Europe? It won't do turns, but
no, we don't have roundabouts. We do have stoplights.
Okay. Yeah, so it sounds like it's the same.
but we have to actually monitor the stoplight. So we have to put pressure on the brake pedal in order to give a sign that we see the stoplight.
Oh, interesting.
We have lane changes.
Completely unnecessary.
Well, actually, it's pretty funny because it's you feel like you are in a simulated environment. So you're actually talking with the environment. So that's I don't think it's a problem.
Okay.
But it's already. I'm using FSD for about 2 years right now, and if I step into a car without FSD, I'm really not happy because I'm already used to driving with FSD, even with its limited capability. So we think that we offer it for €30 right now. We think that's a good price, a very good price for what the capabilities are. It's already far better than driving yourself in certain parts of the road.
Yeah. It is kind of surprising how quickly you get used to it. I mean, especially on winding roads and things like that, where you can just go for 20-30 minutes without really needing to do a thing. It's a much more relaxing experience than just the normal driving where you're constantly trying to keep within the lanes. So it's interesting that even with the limited functionality, you're still getting a pretty decent take rate at that price point. So yeah, just a quick reminder to everyone watching: if you do have questions for Florian or myself, you can type them in the chat, and once we get to the Q&A portion, we'd be happy to go over those. But Florian, I was curious on your as you were watching AI Day, what stuck out to you on either the autonomous front or the other things that they have doing to kind of support the backbone infrastructure that they need for all this real world AI that they're trying to build.
Well, I'm still digesting the information. It was quite overload.
It was a lot there. It was a lot of technical explanations.
And I'm trusting on all the experts. I'm waiting for every video to come out and then just watch that and try to learn as much as possible. But what I've learned is that it's accelerating and it's getting better. And it will get better. And well, you also see that from the FSD beta videos. It's getting better, and it's incremental, and it's happening. And the most interesting part, of course, of the bot was that it's more than only that. It's actually the evidence that the car is already a robot.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So Emmett and I were actually talking a couple weeks ago. He had some comment about them deploying a humanoid robot, and I was like, well, you don't really even need a humanoid robot because the car can already drive itself. Of course, he was right and I was wrong, and they actually did develop this, or they're working on developing this humanoid robot. But I just thought, wow, that's so interesting. They're attacking this massive opportunity of basically all of human labor. And they're doing it with the same infrastructure that they're using to kind of try to solve the full self-driving problem. The thing that really stuck out to me was just how much work had gone into the Dojo computer and the chip that they built that scales up so seamlessly and at such ridiculous scale. Thinking through the huge improvements that they've made so far with frankly, kind of suboptimal compute resources and just the blistering pace of these new FSD releases that are coming every 2 weeks now. It's kind of amazing to me that they can do that level of improvement just even before they have this Dojo computer up and running. And so just fast forwarding a year from now, thinking of how much they would have solved by that point, just with the existing systems. And then eventually they're going to flip the switch on Dojo, and that kind of recursive self-improvement, which is already so fast, is going to accelerate and scale so much more. I mean, that was just kind of mind-boggling for me. And it made me really kind of optimistic that, the huge challenge of solving true autonomy, actually the tools are ready now, or are in the process of getting actually ready to solve this. So I guess for me, it was I kind of have gone in these waves of, will autonomy happen? Will, Tesla actually be able to have robotaxis that create economic value for the fleet operators and for Tesla itself? Probably 2 years ago, when I didn't understand the problem, I thought, oh yeah, definitely, they're so close, it'll be ready in 2 years. Maybe a year ago, or in the last 6 to 9 months, I've maybe been a little bit more pessimistic, just as the pace seemed to really slow. But now, seeing what they've done with this huge rewrite and all the work that they've done on both the hardware and the software side, I'm just getting much more optimistic that they will be able to solve it, within a couple of years time frame. I'm curious if you've had the same kind of, emotional up and down journey about, whether they would actually be able to solve it, and kind of what's your current take on when you think your own fleet might be potentially used as robotaxis?
Well, I'm trying to get more conscious of my own emotions. So I'm trying to solve that problem as well. That has nothing to do with AI or with well, maybe it will help in that way as well. It will merge, but for us, it's already a benefit, and that's what I'm trying to explain to myself as well. That every incremental step of FSD getting better will help us sell an electric car more, and it will help us sell more Teslas, and therefore accelerate our mission. Because every incremental step of FSD getting better will make the car better, and will make the car also more attractive to get finance. And I'm not that worried about the when or it will happen, but I think we are very close. I think it's going to be this decade. So. And if you look at it as if it's going to happen within a decade, I mean, we are leasing out cars for 8 years, 10 years. So for us, we're already thinking in decades. We have to think in decades. So
yeah, that's really interesting.
And the most interesting part is that it's I don't see any other company or auto company actually doing anything similar. So. Yeah, I'm very positive. I have no idea about the time frame. I think it's very difficult to have any idea about the time frame. But I'm seeing that there are improvements.
Yeah, I agree. It's very hard to know exactly when, but I mean, you're essentially with your price point on, what is it, 30 euros a month for the full self-driving subscription? So the finance nerd in me is saying you are probably taking a loss on that, at least right now, but hoping to make up for it on residual value. Residual value being that either you'll be able to charge 100 euros or 200 euros a month in the future when the skill set gets better, or that you'll be able to deploy these as a robotaxi fleet. In which case the upside there is much bigger. So how do you kind of think about making current financial decisions today around pricing when you have kind of an unknown price and an unknown timeline on when you can achieve that higher price for assets that you're investing in right now?
What exactly do you want to know? Because
so you say like you don't know the timeline of when autonomy would happen. But you're at the same time you're running a business that needs to scale today. So I guess how do you balance trying to convert more of your vehicles into the full self-driving option, which requires a somewhat significant capital outlay for you guys to actually pay that $10,000. How many euros is it right now for the outright purchase?
Yeah, it's about the same in euros.
About 10,000 euros. Okay. So, you've got to pay for, if somebody just says, all right, we're going to start, paying 30 euros a month, then you've got to shell out 10,000 euros out of your company's balance sheet. So how do you kind of balance wanting to invest for the future with kind of the current cash flow needs and financing and all that.
Yeah. Well, so the regular write-off of our Teslas is about 50% a year, somewhere.
15. Okay.
Somewhere. So we also write off the FSD with 50%. So if you calculate it back, that's about 40-50 euros a month. So we're actually making a loss right now. But if FSD appreciates with 2,000 euros or $2,000 in the time frame of 8 years, we already have the loss back. So that's the risk that we're taking right now. But we're extrapolating that against the take rate. So if we have a high take rate because of our prices are lower, or we're educating our people better, or our onboarding process is getting better, we rather take a higher take rate than an extra bonus as of now, an extra profit as of now. So we're also looking in business model terms, looking at the longer term, and also looking at how can we convert people to go electric, and people are still they need a lot of education about what is FSD. So we also do FSD days, and we explain them why we're only charging 30 euros. And that's why we're very happy that Tesla actually came with a subscription model for 199 euros, but which you can actually stop after a month. So people really need to learn the product first, and then we will see what the price will be, and what Tesla is charging 199 euros. So that means there's still a lot of room for us to go up in the coming months. So the only thing that we're looking at right now is when is the button gonna be released in the US? But I think it's going to be somewhere in November this year, and then when will be released Europe-wide, and maybe that will take maybe 2 years or maybe even longer. But I think that we still have a lot of room there, and not all of our customers are going for the 30 euro price. So we also sell them for 80 euros for a fixed price for 60 months. So that also helps the others.
Yeah.
So it's a gamble on the appreciation of FSD, and it's a gamble on the innovation of on front of Tesla. But I think that
it strikes me as a pretty low risk gamble, though. I mean, because you're. I mean, you lose a little bit month to month right now, but you've got the potential to raise prices in the future. And then if they actually do solve autonomy, then the economics of your company. I mean, I could just imagine going from a monthly rate that has, I would guess, just relatively low margins, to these assets that you own, this fleet of 3,500. By the time autonomy launches, it'll be more than that. But thousands of autonomous robotaxis, which, as you were alluding to earlier, would have higher utilization. The profit margins would be just so much better than what you have right now. To me, the option value of your business is just staggering, and it's something I'm kind of surprised we don't see more companies being a little bit more forward thinking like you are, and kind of investing in a fleet of Teslas that have FSD like you guys do. But I imagine it's probably hard to make the interim economics work in a lot of places, and that's probably the challenge that most people are facing.
Yeah, it starts with a mission. It starts with what do you want to solve, and then from that point, just focus on the winners within the game.
Yeah,
and we're focusing on Tesla because of their supercharging network. Then second, because their superiority against ICE comparative models, and now because of their FSD software, and they are proving what they're worth. They're walking their talk. Is that a good expression in English?
Yeah, no, it is.
So they're not just speaking and saying we were going to do this. No, they're actually doing it, and we have seen them doing that. We have been growing up together with them the last 7-8 years, and they are actually delivering. They are doing it. They are doing what they are saying. So we have a lot of trust in Tesla because of these milestones they achieve every time.
Yeah, and it's the interesting thing that kind of sticks out to me is that you started the MisterGreen from a mission perspective. I mean, your mission is essentially what Tesla's mission is as well, but you weren't exclusively dealing in Tesla originally. I mean, you said yourself you started with two-wheeled vehicles and then other brands, but it just became so clear. And pretty much nobody has more data than you guys on kind of the economics and the functionality of different EVs out there. But nobody can really compete with Tesla when it comes to the supercharging network, the range of the batteries, the autonomous driving capability. I mean, across all the different areas where you look, I mean, you guys just kind of you didn't have any sort of preference to go with Tesla at the outset, but the specs and their ability to deliver is kind of what drove you to this fleet of 95% plus Teslas. So I think that speaks volumes too about the competitive landscape within the space.
Yeah, and because we focus on Teslas, our customer also know that they only do Teslas, so it makes it easier as well.
Yeah.
Other leasing companies they have customers who are still asking, can I have 2 Teslas and 10 BMWs ICE cars? And they have to say yes, because otherwise they lose their client. So we didn't see that coming before we did this, but it's actually working as well right now, because people know, if I want to do something with MisterGreen, I'm going for Tesla. And we're still educating people that Tesla is the leader in this space, and by a big margin. On every front.
It is surprising, I think we can become a bit of an echo chamber sometimes. We think a lot of people know these things, but when you kind of go outside, our little bubble, there's so much misinformation out there and just a lack of understanding about EVs in general. So there's so much work to be done, I think, to educate the broader population, and at the same time that just creates so much upside potential for companies like yours and for Tesla as an investment. So it makes me really excited about kind of where we are today. Well, you want to take some questions? I think there's a number of people that are kind of interested in what you guys are doing and robotaxis and everything. So yeah, Alec, why don't we go to our first question? All right, so Alex B says, we've seen massive protests against Uber in Europe some time ago and following legal restrictions against the company. What's the probability of such resistance to Tesla robotaxis in major EU markets? So yeah, Florian, I know I think that was in France, at least the incident that I'm remembering, where there was a huge protest against the Uber drivers. What are you seeing in the Netherlands and elsewhere where you guys are active right now?
But that's it's a totally different protest. It's because of its model. It's the people who are working for Uber are not working for Uber. They are actually freelancers, and they are not protected. So, and Robotaxi is going to displace the job, but it's actually people will get another job where they will be better protected. So it's about protecting the people, I think, this case. And I think that we are getting into a decade that we will see that more and more jobs will be displaced by either AI or machines or robots. And actually, there are some industries where actually there are not enough people in order to grow the market. So, for example, the trucking business, there are not enough trucking drivers.
Right.
So the the economy could have been bigger if it could have been driven by a robo truck. If you understand.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, at least here in the U.S., there's a huge labor shortage on a lot of different fronts. I've talked to a lot of small business owners recently, and they just cannot hire enough people right now. I think part of it has to do with some of the unemployment benefits that were going around here as a result of COVID. But I think your point is well taken. I mean, even in a normal mature market like trucking, you're seeing these labor shortages. But that said, I could see Alex's concern here about some people will lose their jobs as a result of robo-taxis. I mean, you could have Uber and Lyft drivers trying to block streets and protesting, vandalizing Tesla vehicles. I do think the transition is probably not going to be seamless, and it was something Elon was actually talking about at AI Day. He was talking about probably needing a universal basic income down the road, and I think there will be some bigger winners and a lot of smaller losers, and it's going to be important as a society to try to mitigate those impacts as well as we can, and to try to lift up everyone as much as possible. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting transition, and it's not going to be pain-free for everyone, I think.
Oh, and the interesting part, I was in an Uber cab lately, and this guy I was talking about, I was from MisterGreen, I was doing, and he was, oh yeah, Tesla with the robotaxis, and he actually wanted to build a robotaxi fleet because he thought, oh well, then I have my own cash machine. So
yeah, well,
he already understood that he would have an asset working for him instead of he having to work for the same kind of money. So
yeah, I think that's the ones who are more forward-looking. I think you can go from driving one vehicle at low margins, to hopefully being able to own a fleet and operate them, and get higher returns and hopefully a better kind of work-life balance as well. So I think there's potential for just a normal Uber and Lyft driver to make that transition and do really well.
I can even imagine that a municipality will become the owner of a fleet of robotaxis, and that the money earned with those robotaxis will come back into the community.
Yeah, that's interesting. All right, let's go to the next question. All right, so Andrew Basile says, once FSD really works, small companies can be created to deploy robotaxi fleets. How should mom and pop robotaxi operators best look for fleet financing? So this has been a question in my mind, Florian. You probably have better information than most, but my thinking is, I reserve 21 Cybertrucks in the hope of essentially becoming a mom and pop robotaxi fleet operator. And I can't imagine that if I go to my local bank and ask for $1 million of financing to help acquire this fleet, that they're going to understand this business model and help finance that. So what's your kind of sense on where this will go, and what are you seeing kind of today in the financing market?
Well, this is exactly the business model that we envision for ourselves. So our clients at this moment are mostly entrepreneurs, and they're also mom and pop businesses. So we are already familiar with this kind of businesses and looking at those at their financials. And I think this is the whole idea that we talked about 7 months ago. That I think that Elon, this is the master plan of Elon to get people become entrepreneurs around the technology that he is making. Mm-hmm. He already said it on Autonomy Day that people are able to earn money with their cars, and we call it a robotaxi as a service business model. So there will be companies like us, and we hope to inspire other financing companies to adopt this business model. It's actually for us, for a financier, it's actually more interesting to have somebody have the asset really hired again, so to rent the asset out again, because it's less of a risk than using it yourself.
So are you saying you would take essentially the vehicles that you have that you own outright from your balance sheet and let independent operators kind of manage robotaxi fleets, or would you actually provide the financing so that new purchases could be made?
Both.
Both? Okay.
Yeah. This, for both, there's a model. But I think people that want to operate a robotaxi fleet, they don't want to have the whole hassle. So they don't really want to be the owner, but they want to get the cash flows. So we will be the owner of the car, but you will be locally operating the robotaxi because you are having a local advantage.
So doing like the cleaning and charging and stuff locally, then splitting the revenues with you guys who actually own the vehicle. That's interesting.
Yeah, and there are a lot of hybrid models around it as well. You can also be the owner of the car for 2 days and rent the car out as a robotaxi fleet for 2 days. You can have multiple owners of one car. So there's a lot of hybrid models.
I do think there's going to be a lot of entrepreneurship in this front. I mean, I could see, there's not going to be any one right answer, I don't think. I mean, once we get to the point where the technology actually works, I think it's going to just create so much opportunity for, a whole bunch of different entrepreneurial business models to emerge. And I think more companies probably should be doing what you're doing and trying to invest in that now. Because I do think that there's a real possibility that these will be appreciating assets if you buy now. And it'll be a lot more expensive to buy in the future.
All the different business models, you're only thinking of driving people, but you can also have people watch movies or play games or whatever kind of services you can put on top of the driving part. So maybe you can even say, well, the driving part is for free, but I'm going to earn money on other stuff. So let's see what it will take. It will be a complete new platform upon people will build new apps, new ideas, new services. So
I agree. I think Dave Lee mentioned the possibility of this becoming like a cruise ship type of thing, where you like wake up in a different city each day, and like the car is basically like your hotel, and that's kind of a funny idea. I'm not sure it would work for safety reasons, but I think you're right. There's been a lot of innovation around there. Let's go to the next question. Are there a lot of misinformation being reported in the news in that part of the world? Tesla Wrecked has that question. So I think here in the US we see a lot of journalists, having kind of morally dubious claims about Tesla, only reporting on the fires and the bad news. What are you seeing there in Amsterdam?
Well, the FUD is here as well. The fear and doubt. Yeah, it's the same thing. It's the same clickbait. It's the business model of the mass media, which is actually If there's a headline with Tesla in it, more people will read it. So no, there's a lot of misinformation. That's why I'm constantly focusing on educating people, and having people the access to FSD and access to a Tesla car to see for themselves, and have butts on seats and just do it. Just look at it. It's not as frightening as everybody says and reads. And it's still we're still in the infancy of this new technology and new market. And here in the Netherlands, we are fortunate that already about 20% of the new car sales is already an electric vehicle. So electric vehicles are becoming kind of mainstream.
I'm surprised there is that much FUD when there seems to be greater general awareness of electric vehicles in the Netherlands than there is here in the US. So, but I think you're right. It's probably just the business model is the same for media everywhere, unfortunately. Let's move on to the next question. All right. So Spooner on Twitter asks, as the fleet grows, what does MisterGreen see as more sustainable? Level 2 overnight or random as needed supercharging?
More sustainable. I think
and I'm guessing
you need both, and it depends on where you live, where the charging is happening. I mean, if you're living in a city, level 2 is difficult.
Mm-hmm.
If you're living in a rural part, it's easier to have charging overnight. I think it's easier for supercharging to have green energy, because the people who provide the supercharger services will definitely go for green energy. And maybe the overnight chargers are more private owned. Maybe it's more difficult for them to have solar panels as well. But I think it's a difficult question. There's not a choice of what is more sustainable. I think it depends on a lot of factors.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, though. I mean, there will be a difference between small mom and pops probably, and then larger outfits like MisterGreen that own thousands and can afford a little bit more infrastructure to do supercharging or install solar panels. All right, let's move on to the next question. All right, Investing Kaizen says, I'm curious about his general business idea then now, but also as FSD progresses. What was most critical of your success? So yeah, I think we kind of touched on this one already. I mean, your business model now being mostly on the leasing, but you're getting these assets on your balance sheet, and then you've got this incremental change as FSD progresses, where you can raise the price and potentially be a robotaxi business. Anything else you want to kind of add on to how your business evolves, from where you are today to, where you hope to be in the future?
Well, we are present now in the Netherlands, Belgium, and Denmark, and we want to expand our presence through all of Europe. So that's very important for us as a business to grow, because then we have a bigger piece of the pie. Mm-hmm. Crucial for us is that we keep on focusing on Tesla, keep on focusing on our mission, and that's something that we have in our own hands. And I think the other things are in the hands of Tesla, and I think we have a trustful partner there in the progress of FSD. So we have our the leasing part of the company. The leasing part is like the defense part.
Yeah,
it's very steady. It's very recurring business model. We have a lot of small clients, so there's not a lot of risk of default, and we are in a very big total market. So the market is growing as crazy, and we are actually trying to every year to innovate our business model. So I think that will be critical as well, to not stand still on your business model, where you're earning money right now, but you should invest in stuff. Examples are FSD investment we're doing right now. It's a lot of euros going out of to the balance sheet and not coming in yet.
Right.
But we have this vision, we have this trust, we have our mission. So that's the three pillars that we are, and we have a recurring revenue model. So I think that's it.
Yeah, I think we can move on to the next one. But your point is well taken, that you got to what you need to kind of live stably month to month right now, and you're also at the same time reinvesting to change the business model yet again in the future. All right, so Andy Giesbrecht says, how is a large fleet operator treated differently than an individual? So I'm wondering if that means treated differently by Tesla, or if it's kind of more around your economics as a fleet operator compared to an individual mom and pop operator. So what's your sense on kind of how Tesla treats you and you said earlier you don't have any, pricing advantage, but what are the differences that you can see right now?
Well, we are not treated differently from an individual from Tesla. We don't treat a fleet operator different than an individual. So everybody's the same. And we're just looking at our own metrics in order to deliver the same service to an individual as to a fleet operator. So what we do, one of our biggest clients has about 40 cars, and we do an internal FSD day. That's maybe the difference. And we have a dedicated account manager on it. But our whole our customer journey is getting 100% digital. So it doesn't matter if you're big or small for us.
You guys have a great website, by the way. I mean, it takes a lot of the simplicity and the great stuff that Tesla's doing and applies it to your business model and your pricing. I'd recommend people go check it out. Is it MisterGreen.nl? Is that the address?
MisterGreen.nl. Yeah.
You guys are doing some really great stuff, I think, on just trying to ease the transaction process. And
we invested a lot in the digital customer journey.
Yeah, which I think is going to be an increasingly important part, and probably as we make the transition to autonomy is going to be really important as well. But yeah, let's move on to another question. All right, so Alex B says, in your opinion, what is the gravest obstacle on the path to bright future of autonomous transportation in Europe?
Data. Well, it's if Tesla solves the technical part, I don't see any problems anymore, because if Tesla is 10 times to 20 times to maybe 100 times more safe than a human driver, then everybody will be everybody will be in for full self-driving, and the data will speak for itself, because it's the same thing Enon says. I mean, it's crazy that we accept that so many people die from car accidents right now. So it's just something that we accepted as a society, but it's not. It's a lot of people.
Yeah.
So
do you see? It's mostly technical. You don't see, politicians being, the single greatest obstacle. Is it? You just have the sense that that stuff will work itself out by the time the tech is ready.
Yeah,
that's good to hear. That's honestly encouraging.
I think, of course, regulatory will leap or will be lagging on the technological part. But if its technology is solved and the data shows that it's better, it will definitely work here as well. Actually, the Germans are very progressive on the regulatory part, so they really want autonomous cars. So we are very hopeful. But
yeah, it's interesting watching the Berlin plant that Tesla's building. There's been a decent amount of kind of political opposition going up against that plant, but it's it seems like it's been handled pretty well, and level heads are winning at the end of the day. So hopeful that that can be the same story with autonomy across Europe. Well, Florian, I know it's kind of getting late in Amsterdam, so we can leave it there for today. But it's been a pleasure to have you on and to kind of fill in while Emmett's out. So thank you so much for your time and sharing your insights. We'll have to do this again sometime.
Well, definitely. Hopefully, in a few months, we will talk about the button being released and the implications about this.
Yeah, gosh, I'm dying to try it out personally. I think I should probably try to reach out to see if I can try the beta, but it's I think it's going to be a watershed moment when kind of normal people are able to see and experience what it's actually like in person. Because I think there's not many people watching these FSD beta videos, but I think once it just kind of gets to the point where you or I can give anyone a test ride and they can watch what it does on itself, I think that will change a lot of minds about how far Tesla has come and how close we really are to autonomy.
Definitely, yeah. We are having the Model Y delivery as of this week, so that's where we are at here in Europe.
Oh,
Finally.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, you guys are finally getting those. I think the first ships came in, like, was it like 2 weeks ago or last week, something like that?
Yeah. So
that's a great car.
Yeah, so I'm gonna get my car, I think, next week. So I'm very, very curious, and from there we will see the next step from Tesla. So yeah, hopefully we will meet together and have new news again.
Yeah, that sounds great. Well, thanks again so much, Florian, and thanks everyone for watching. Take care.